Today, a re-edit. I'll showcase my workflow with a re-edit of a 10-year-old image using the latest version of Lightroom Classic as well as ON1 Photo Raw 2020, and hopefully showcase how my skills have improved a little over the last 10 years. Well, hey everybody, thanks for joining me for this Approaching the Scene. Before we jump in and do this re-edit and talk about my workflow, I want to just remind anybody who's newer to the channel or who hasn't noticed this before that if you click on the video title or click Show More in the video description, depending on your platform, you'll see there's a whole table of contents with linked time codes where you can just click and jump to any portion of the video that you're interested in watching or rewatching. So that's just a shortcut to jump to the parts that are the most important for you. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody who's been making this channel grow and such a success. I want to thank you so much for liking, for sharing, for clicking subscribe. There's a little subscribe button down at the bottom right for those who haven't done that yet. And you know, just reiterate, this whole channel's content is driven by the community, by the comments that you leave on YouTube, by the emails that you send me, by the questions that you submit and enter in the chat when we're doing our office hours on Tuesday mornings. We do these free office hours. It's a Zoom chat. 100 people can come into the Zoom room, plus we webcast it live on YouTube Tuesday mornings, 10 a.m. Next one's on July 14th, and we'll be judging our photo contest entries. There's still a few days to get entries in for that. All you have to do is jump over to www.hudsonhenry.com/office hours, and you'll see all the rules for the photo contest. One image, it's free to enter. It'll tell you all about what you need and how to sign up to join the office hours, where we're going to go over the submissions and showcase some of the amazing images. You take a look, there's a link to the gallery in here as well, and there's been some really, really awesome images submitted. So it's going to be tough to pick winners out of this. Winners are going to get a big print handmade by my good buddy Rick and I, as well as a Hudson Henry photography hat. So hope you'll join. I hope you'll be part of that conversation. That conversation's driven questions like, you know, what is your workflow? I see that you work with Lightroom. I see that you work with ON1's Photo Raw. You know, how do those things mesh? And I thought I would just go through, take on an old image. It's one of the things I've been doing lately while I've been at home more and not out in the workshops that I love, is kind of going back through my back catalog, looking at images that I love from the past and thinking, you know, I've got the raw file. Why don't I take that with my skills that have improved over the years and software that's improved over the years and take a second look at that. Oh, hey, before we jump in and do that, I know there's probably a few people that are going to question, you know, why does it look like I have eyeshadow on one eye? Well, a lot of you know that I'm a really avid kiteboarder and kite surfer, and lately I've been taking up kite hydrofoiling, where there's a wing under the water and a mast that comes up to your board and you're kind of hovering on top of the water. And I had a little mishap on the 4th of July weekend out on the Columbia where I got pulled off the front of the board by the kite, and when I turned to see where my board was, it was still racing along above the water on its foil and just hit me in the helmet and went under and lacerated my right eyebrow. You can probably see that there. My wife super glued it shut. It's great to have a doctor for a wife, so she disinfected it, super glued it shut, and got me back out on the water. But over the weekend, my eye has turned black, and there's actually a lot of makeup that keeps it from looking as black as it really is. All right, that's just a little trivia for what's going on with my eye. So let's jump in and take a look at this image that I want to work on. And I'm going to jump into Lightroom, which is really where, you know, for years and years, since the very first version of Lightroom, I have organized my images and catalog them and keep track of them, and I like to raw process in there. I like to finish edit in ON1 Photo Raw 2020, and sometimes I work on images start to finish in there too. But my general process is to kind of stick to Lightroom Classic. And this is an image from the Enchantments in 2012. I've been going through kind of a gallery here of images, you know, some of which really could use a re-edit here and there or haven't really been edited yet. So I've got this collection going, and this image from the Enchantments I think is emblematic of some of the things that I complain about pretty frequently. When I talk about workshop students' images or critique images, I talk about, you know, too much contrast, oversaturation, over sharpening, you know, a loss of detail, too dark of shadows. And I think this image suffers from a lot of those things. It's 10 years old. And so, you know, I grabbed a hold of my RAW file. This was captured with my Nikon D700. It's a 12 megapixel RAW file from 2010. And I thought I would jump in with, you know, just the straight out of camera RAW file, and we could do a little processing and see if we can't improve the edit on here. So I'm jumping into develop. I'm going to close this left panel so that I have a little bit bigger window. And I've got my clipping masks highlighted. So you see where we've blown out the white channel is red, and anything that's blown out in the black channel or blocked out shadows will show up as blue. And you can see that the sliders look a little different than we're used to in the latest version of Lightroom Classic. And that's because this thing was originally processed in a profile that's processed version 1 from the earliest versions of Lightroom. And so I need to update that Adobe Camera Raw processing version. And I'm just going to click that little lightning symbol right here under the histogram. And I don't need to review changes before and after. You know, I could click Don't Show Again. I could update all the images in the film strip. I'm just going to update this one image. And boom, you can see just by nature, the thing is hiding some shadows. I don't know why it set it to plus 25 for blacks. Maybe it's doing some kind of automatic black point stuff. I'm going to reset it to 0 here, and you can see we've got a little bit of shadow clipping. You know, if I was to pull it down, we'd see the shadows really start blocking out. I don't need that. I'm going to stick with 0. And I've got just a little bit of black shadows in the darkest shadows, and I like that. Now my trick for recovering highlight detail is usually pull the white slider back, you know, about halfway or so, and then see if pulling the highlight slider solves the problem, and here it surely is. You know, the more I pull it, the less contrast we're going to get. So I don't want to overdo it. I don't want any blown out whites in my scene, but you can see we've solved that problem just that easily. And then I want to take my shadows and boost my shadows some. So I want to bring up the detail in this mountain, Prusik Peak. This is in the Enchantment's Lake Basin in the Alpine Lake Wilderness area in northeastern Washington, or northwestern Cascades of Washington. Spectacular high alpine lake basin, difficult to get into. These days you have to win a lottery to get a permit at the time of year when these large trees change color. You know, these are the deciduous fir trees, large trees that live up in this basin, and in the fall it's just spectacular up there. And this morning there was, you know, I was waiting for the sun to crack through. I have some more images from when the sun cracked through, but I do like this pre-dawn kind of cool light look of this particular image, and there's a way to edit it to get, as you saw, you know, really, really moody. I'll jump back to the edit that I had, and I think we just want to do it a little bit more subtly. So here we go. So we've got kind of our tones relatively set in here. We might want to just shift around, playing with highlights a little bit. Maybe something right in there. I'm just watching the image as I make little movements of those sliders. I'm liking that. And then, you know, let's play around with color temperature a little bit. I think this image could warm up a little bit. It seems like it has a bit of a blue tint. Now it was a bluish morning. It was kind of that period before dawn. So, you know, it's kind of a matter of personal choice. It's been a long time, 10 years. So I'm kind of going by memory here. We can go blue, we can go real warm. And I think warm is a little more boring in this scene. So I want to kind of strike that balance. You know, maybe something actually I'm going to cool it down just a touch. And then there's, you know, magenta to green. I think we had it pretty well. The camera did a nice job. I don't think we need to be adjusting that really at all. So we'll leave that as shot for the tint slider. I'm not really going to mess around with saturation or vibrance, texture, clarity, dehaze. You know, as I look at it one more time, I may blue it up just a smidge more, just a touch. I'm going to want to look at detail. And I want to make sure that I've got as much sharpness out of this raw file as I can without any noise. As I look at this, it's shot at ISO 200. On my D700, that was a really quite incredible camera for high ISO noise, so I know there's not likely to be too much noise in this image. And so I'm going to go in here, and the first thing I want to do is a little bit of sharpening. And here's where I think I probably messed up in the past. I'm going to hold down the Alt key on Windows. It would be the Option key on Mac, and that gives me a black and white view, which I find pleasing to sharpen with. And I'm actually going to get in close here, 100% view, hold down that key to get the black and white mask. And let me show you what over sharpening looks like. If I pull this up, you see these horrible kind of like over sharpened edges, and just it starts to look like a comic book drawing of rocks on the hillside. Definitely don't want that. I want to back down to where it looks natural. The last thing I want, over sharpening can just really ruin a beautiful image, in my opinion, especially in fine details like this. So as I pull this back, as I'm watching it, I'm up close, I've got reading glasses on, and I'm pulling it back, just watching the image, and it looks like right around 50 or so. I'm going to keep that Option or Alt key held down. I'm going to move my radius slider, and you can see if I pull it way up, I'm going to start getting haloing. You can see that little glow around the big edges in the scene. That's saying, you know, how much contrast is being added, you know, by pixels, how many pixels are being affected. Usually I like it around 1. I want to kind of turn it off, turn it on, have a look. The lower it is, the less chance of halos. Detail's the same way. As I grab detail, finer details are going to get sharpened, but you have more chance of sharpening noise and patterns that are on the sensor, as well as adding halos. So you're going to have, you know, you want to find a happy medium where enough detail is being sharpened, but you don't have halos blooming. I like to keep it down to the left. Halos are what I really want to avoid. I don't want those weird contrast edge artifacts. And here we have a pretty harsh contrast edge along where this mountain meets the sky. So I'm being really careful with that, viewing it at 100%. And finally, I always use the masking slider. The masking slider is going to say, don't sharpen any details smaller than this. And it'll really help you get rid of noise in your image, or it'll help you avoid sharpening noise in your image. And it'll let you just target, where is that sharpening that I'm applying going? You know, right here, that looks like about the level that I want sharpened. You know, back here, too much is getting sharpened. There's like a Van Gogh-y kind of undercurrent in the sky. And as you do more and more editing, depending on how extreme your finish editing is, some of that sharpening that you do that's affecting pattern noise from this older sensor could really come out to bite you in the long run as you're doing your edit. So I want to just make sure that I'm masking that right down to only the things I want sharpened. And if we turn this whole thing off, turn it back on, you see we've squeezed quite a bit of sharpness out without over sharpening. And that's really going to help if we decide to go ahead and print this image down the road. So I always want to do that at 100% view. I didn't really see any noise to speak of in the image that was bothering me. And again, this camera is great. I mean, at ISO 200, I would never expect there to be any noise. So I'm going to call that good. That's raw processed for me. You know, looking back at it, step back from it a little bit. I might boost the shadows just a touch more, bring that mountain out a little bit. It looks really good to me. It's a good histogram. So what I'm going to do now is right-click the image, and I want to say Edit In, and we're going to jump over and finish edit this thing in ON1 Effects 2020. So I want to create a Photoshop document with all of these adjustments that we've done built into it. I want to use Pro Photo RGB. That's the biggest, widest color space for creating an editing master. I want it to be 16 bits, not 8, 16, a bigger, wider, you know, more color depth in there. I don't really care about resolution. I'm just going to go ahead and hit edit. That's going to create a new Photoshop document file, and it's going to open it in Photo Raw, ready to be edited. So I'll close down this left panel, and it's opening it in the edit portion of Photo Raw 2020. Got all these Lightroom adjustments. It's raw process, so we don't really need to worry about ON1's develop. If we were doing a start to finish edit here in ON1, we'd go through and do all the same adjustments that we just did. And, we could watch the levels and look at clipping masks and do all those same things, sharpening and noise reduction. But instead, we're just going to work with effects. And I'm going to go ahead and reopen that panel. And if we wanted to do this all from scratch, I would go in and I could add these different effects filters, and they'll layer into a filter stack. Each one of them is maskable. They're all non-destructive. You can go through, layer these things effect after effect with masking and blending and all kinds of fine-tuning options. But to kind of give you an introduction to how I tend to work, I have a number of presets. And the ones I kind of always go to are these presets I've created for ON1 4-season presets. And before I even go in, I just want to say that no matter what software you're working with presets, I want you to think about presets as a starting point. There's no way that a preset that some engineer or photographer has designed for software is going to be perfect for the image that you're working on. Every single image is different. So, my argument is you should apply a preset that gets you as close as possible to the finished look that you want. And then go in and tweak it for the image that you're working on. Get that thing just right the way that you want it. And the neat thing about Photo Raw's presets are that, first of all, they don't do anything to your underlying develop settings. So, they're not going to tweak the basic tone and color adjustments that you did to your image at all. It's just going to leave, there should be effects presets, just finishing editing presets. And then you can go in and dissect them, take a look at what the person who laid this preset out did in order to get the look that you're after. And that's going to help you learn to use the software better. I think they're a wonderful teaching tool, and I think you should take them apart and look at every single option in them. So I'm going to go in, and this is a fall photo. So I'm going to go into my Northwest Fall presets, and I'm going to open up the Quick View browser. That's this little clover leaf looking icon. And when I open it, I can see these things. Sometimes they're really small. If I hit the plus key on my keyboard, it's going to make these thumbnails nice and big where I can really get a view of how this is going to affect my image. I like afterglow. I like alpine reflections a lot here. Cloud break is cool. Those make sense. There's kind of fun, but creative look there. Red leaves is nice. Gold reflections looks good. This last one, yellow leaves, looks nice. I don't know, I kind of go yellow leaves or cloud break maybe. Afterglow is nice too. Yellow leaves. I'd say yellow leaves or cloud break. So one of the nice things I can do is I can click it, see how that affects my image. Then I could try yellow leaves. Ooh, I like cloud break better. So if I click on cloud break, boom, all right. So what do we have going on in this effect stack? You can see there are 6 filters stacked on top of each other. A vignette, a photo filter, color enhancer, dynamic contrast, tone enhancer, sunshine. Well, let's kind of break that down and have a look at each one. I'm going to turn each one of these filters off, which is going to take us right back to the image with nothing applied, just how it came out of Lightroom. The first one is sunshine. And I would say that overall it's adding a little pop to the whole image. It's darkening the shadows, brightening the highlights. It's a good overall look. There's no part of the image that I really changed. Let's go in and look at the controls. There's a saturation boost going on, just that's got a little titch of something. There's a little warmth boost. I might pull that back just a little bit. We were kind of going against warmth. And then there's an amount slider, and it's set at 18. The way that I designed this one, you can see what that's doing. It's just kind of creating added contrast. So I might just move it for our image, leave it at about 20. I'm watching the image while I drag the slider. I'm going to go ahead and close that left panel so we don't need to see those preset titles anymore, and we can get a bigger image to work with. All right, so tone enhancer. Let's see what that's doing. We'll click its radio button, open up its panel, and if I turn it off, turn it on, it's darkening up the highlights, isn't it? It's pulling the highlights way down, boosting contrast just a little bit. And that's the main things that it's doing. A little bit of shadows being pulled up Let's jump in here and make sure our edges still look good. I'm constantly kind of zooming into 100% and checking my detail edges and my contrast edges, making sure nothing is getting messed up. Looks good. You know what though, I noticed there's a little bit of sensor dust right there. So I'm going to grab my retouching brush. I'm grabbing the perfect brush. I could have done this in Lightroom too, and I can resize my brush with the bracket keys. Left bracket key makes it smaller, and I'll just click on that perfect eraser. Bloop, that's gone. Noticing there's like a little kind of annoying, like there's a branch in the corner that draws my eye out of the frame. Let's just nuke that. And these are probably some leaves or something moving on the surface of the lake. I'm not a big fan of that either. I'm just going to use this perfect brush. It's kind of a magic tool. I'm just going to draw right over that, and watch, I'll bet it emulates the surface or the subsurface of the lake in a way that just looks like it was never there. Amazing. Love that tool. All right. So bouncing back out, let's grab our view tool, zoom back out. I think, yeah, this looks like it's doing a good thing to the entire image. So now I want to jump in and have a look at Tone Enhancer. Again, is just another way at the finish editing process with the ability to mask out portions of the scene or do luminosity masking, to be able, and with all kinds of blending options like you would have in Photoshop. It's really, really deep what you can do in here, to just do some more minor tone adjustments localized. So we'll close that down. We like what it's doing. It's minor. Let's look at dynamic contrast. This is a really cool effects filter. And what it does is it adds kind of pop and micro contrast, like sharpening and micro contrast and different sized details in the image. I have my own little kind of preset that I often like. I've created a saved style. You can adjust these settings in a way, and after a while you see yourself doing it over and over and over again, and save your own style that you use over and over again. I have my own in here. This one's adjusted a little differently. You can see there are styles that ON1 throws in. That's insane. There's kind of natural, which is too much for me. There's a whole bunch of different things. What I've got set in here is to adjust small details, little tiny details like what's going on in the rocks here by a level of 5. If I bump that up, you'll see all those little details are getting micro contrast. If I pull them up, you'll see it's way overdone. I'm going to just hit Control Z or Command Z for you Apple folks to undo that move. Medium details affects medium-sized details in the scene, like the edge of the trees and the bigger, chunkier details, but not the largest detail edges in the scene. And of course, large affects those things like that ridge line at the top and the edge of the rocks meeting the lake. So in this case, you know, I want to be zoomed in like I am and looking at that ridge line and make sure that this filter is not creating any haloing on the big rock line itself. I'm going to pull that large detail slider back just a little bit. All in all, I think it looks really quite nice. So let's zoom in here. I want to just make sure my rocks look good, and I want to make sure it's doing a good thing to the entire mountains. I really like what it's doing in here. I think I'm a little less fond of some of what it's doing in these upper portions of the rock. So I'm going to just go in, I'm going to grab its little masking icon, boop, and what I want to do is I'm going to paint with, say like 67% opacity, like a 2/3 opacity brush, and I want my feather to be at 100% of this brush, a nice soft brush, and I want to paint the effect out, and I'm going to use the bracket key to make my brush smaller. I just want to paint it out of that little upper portion of the mountain where it has all those blocky details. So it's still there a little bit, but I've largely painted it out, and now that effect is really getting more limited to the mountain itself and not those little chunky hills in the background. All right, so then next I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to take this effect out of some portions of the scene that I never like to add micro contrast and sharpness to, and that's the clouds and soft reflections. So I'm going to grab my, stay with my masking brush. I'm just going to grab the masking brush right here. We'll leave my opacity, well, I'll put my opacity up at 100%. Again, keep a nice soft brush, and I'm just going to kind of run around in here and paint it out of the bulk of the sky. You know, I don't think that in this case there's any need to get all finely detailed and do the whole edge thing, perfect masking, but just, you know, take it out of those reflective surfaces. I'd like to keep it in the foreground rocks that are showing through the surface, but I'll make my brush a little smaller. These soft kind of reflections of the mountains and the trees, I don't want to add sharpness and micro contrast to, so I'll do something like that. I can see I missed a spot in the sky looking at this little preview of it right there. Whoop, looks good. And now when I click this on and off, you'll see it's really dedicated to the actual foreground scene, or that midground scene, the background scene of the mountains and the foreground rocks and reflections there. All right, so now let's take a look at the color enhancer. This one is definitely boosting our oranges and our blues, maybe a little too much saturation in the blues. I don't know, let me step back and look at it for a second here. I'm gonna look at what it's doing to this blue color channel, and it's really saturating it. I'm actually gonna pull its saturation back a little bit in the blue channel, just to have a little bit more natural. And I might darken it just a touch, darken our blues up a little bit, not too much. Orange, that's going to be these tamarack trees. I think I'd like to brighten them a little bit so I can make the orange stand out a little. You see how that's just making them lighter? And I kind of want to go somewhere like right in there. And they can be pretty saturated. They were saturated. I remember them well. And that almost simulates like there's a little more backlight coming through that gap than is showing up in this image. And then, let's see. Yeah, I think that looks really, really good. We might just, there's a hint of kind of magenta-y purple. I might just boost that a little bit if it's there, magenta and purple, to just kind of bring out a little of that color. I think that looks great. Then there's a photo filter. And this photo filter is a little bit of an overarching warming filter. So let's turn it off, turn it back on. Ooh, I like what it's doing to the trees. Now, once again, I want to jump in here and just have a look, make sure my edges look good. They do. Really nice. And there's a good amount of shadow detail in here without it being blocked out. And finally, I'm going to have a look at this vignette. And I believe, you know, that the way to take a look at these vignettes is always to reduce the feather to where you can actually see what's going on. And then you can change the size. And you can change, you know, the roundness if you'd like. You can grab it, move it to where it's right over the part of your scene that you don't want changed. You want to darken everything but to bring the eye into that. Then we can pull our feather back to where it's really soft difference and start pulling the outside of the image's darkness down a little bit. All right. And now I think if you take a look at the before and the after, we've really done a nice edit here. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit done, and that's going to save this image and open it up in Lightroom. And so back here we have our edit, and God, it looks really nice to me. If you compare it, you know, here's our raw file, our original raw file, and let's just look at these side by side in a survey mode. The major difference from the raw. Now, let's take a look at the image that we had edited prior. Way overdone to me. This is like, got that kind of fairy tale, unreal, way too dark of shadows. There's some weird stuff going on. I've darkened the sky too much. It just doesn't look remotely real to me compared to the edit that we just did. Now, partly the software is better, partly I'm better and more nuanced with it, but yeah, it's definitely worthwhile thinking about going back and re-examining some of your edits from yesteryear. This one is now by far my 3-star portfolio image, and this one is probably about to get junked other than as a teaching example. And to prove positive that when I talk to people about oversaturating and adding too much contrast and having too dark of shadows and potentially, you know, just doing these kinds of things that look unreal, saying, hey, you know, I was in that same place. I have been guilty in the past myself. And I think that as time goes by, you know, hopefully your eye will develop, and, you know, you edit with a more nuanced touch. So, all right, everybody. I hope that was a fun trip through my process with editing. It definitely kind of opens my eyes to the power of going back to a raw file. There's a few things from it. One, software is better. Two, you get better as an editor. It's fun to go back and revisit some of your favorite images from yesteryear. And three, it's just really important to shoot raw and save your master editing files so that you can access them and go back and do that years from now. Because, you know, here's to hoping that in 10 years the software is as much better than it is today than it was 10 years ago today, and that we are as much better 10 years from now as we are from 10 years ago. So anyhow, thanks so much for watching and for liking the videos and sharing. And I hope to see you in office hours this next week. We're going to share those winners from the photo contest. There's still time to submit an image. Rick and I will probably close that gallery down and choose winners on Monday before we do the office hours Tuesday morning. So I hope you'll join. I hope you'll contribute questions. We'll go through those images. We'll pick the winners. We'll talk about some of the other images in there. And we'll do an open Q&A session about whatever everyone wants to talk about. And let's hope that we can all be out in the field, creating images and getting better as photographers together again soon. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.